This video is about the abstract InDesign composition assignment. So if you're looking at week 2, you can see that if I click on this, I'm going to get to the assignment description. And watch the video. That's the video I'm recording right now. I'm going to explore and explain some of InDesign's tools, and then you'll be putting a screenshot in the submissions folder. So there's another Adobe tutorial right before this in the assignment that you'll want to watch first. Just gives you the basics about opening up InDesign and creating a document. So I'm going to go through that part of it fairly quickly when I do this video, but that'll give you more context as far as getting a thing opened and started. If you don't have InDesign downloaded to your computer yet, but you have a Creative Cloud subscription, you can look at the Creative Cloud icon up in your taskbar, your menu bar up here at the very top. And I can see that this is the Adobe Suite, the Creative Cloud. Some programs I've downloaded already and some I don't have yet. I have InDesign, so I can just click open to open it, or if it's already in your dock, of course, you can just open it that way. Illustrator needs an update, so that's how you know when your programs need updating. I still need to download this Illustrator update, for example. So I'm gonna just click open here, and it's gonna open InDesign. And it takes a minute or two to open. What I'm going to have you do is create a document that is letter size. So it's going to give us a start screen here, and it's going to let me choose from some of my recent documents or create a new document. So I'm going to click Create New, and then I'm going to choose choosing letter size. So I'm looking at these nav items up top. I'm going to choose Print, and then I'm going to click on Letter. And this is where it gives me all the information about the height and the width of the file. I'm going to switch this to inches. Picas is another measuring unit that's used in printing sometimes. We've also got millimeters, centimeters, pixels, points, etc. I'm going to go to inches, and there you can see it's more familiar, 8.5 inches by 11 inches. Landscape or portrait is what those orientations are called. So I'm going to do it the tall way, and I'm going to click Create. So this has gotten us to about the point when the last video leaves off. So we're just going to take a look at some tools in InDesign. And what I want you to do is make sure that when you look at it, you're looking at the Essentials view. There are different views of the app depending on what you're planning on doing with it. So if I was printing and proofing, I might want different tools available to me right out on the desktop. If I'm doing typography, then I might want different tools. I'm going to switch it to Essentials, and that's the one that I'm going to want you to use. If you do Essentials, your desktop will look like mine. So I'm in Essentials, and just to make sure everything is set up the way you want it to be, and that nothing has been left in the wrong place, you can click Reset Essentials. So now you see what happened. Mine reset a little bit, and I've got the Properties panel over here, the tab that says Properties. That's what I want to see on the right side here. So Essentials and then Reset Essentials. These are called workspaces. Now I'm in a workspace, and if you do the same thing, your workspace should look exactly like this one. So let's talk a little bit about how things get into InDesign and what kind of objects we can create. Everything in InDesign is going to be in a container of some sort. So if you've got some text, that text is going to be in a text box. If you've got a shape, that's going to be its own container. If you're bringing in any images, those will also be in a container. So the first thing I'm going to do is have us play around with some text. So the text tool is here with the big T, and then I can click and drag to create a text box. Then I can just type in the text box. I'm going to type my name. And then there's something else we can do just to sort of get a body of text to play with. You can go under Type and go to Fill with Placeholder Text, and that will put in Latin text to fill up the limits of the box. So I can see I've got a text box here. This is good for editing text. If I'm in the text tool, I can edit this text, I can highlight it, I can change the font, so I can change the type style of this text. I can change things about how it's aligned. I could center align it. I could align it left and right. I can do lots of things in the properties panel with the text when I'm in the text tool. I'm going to switch tools now though. I'm going to go to the select tool. So the top arrow is the general selection tool. It's a black arrow, and with that I could move this entire box around. I'm no longer editing the text, but I'm moving the box itself, the container of the text. I can resize this container. If I size this container smaller than the text in it, I'll get this little overset notice. That little red plus sign is warning me that there's more text than is in this box. There's more text than can fit in the box. So I need to make my box bigger in order to get rid of that and fit all the text. If I made all my text larger, it would not fit in the box. So if I want to now go and edit this text again, if I want to get in and make changes about the text, I could double click on it, and by doing that I got back into the text tool. You can see that the text tool is highlighted now. So that's one quick way to get in and start playing with the text inside that field. And then I could switch back out to the general select tool, and you might notice that the properties panel has changed. So the properties panel changes depending on what you have selected. It's context specific, which means if I have a shape selected, it's going to be full of things that I can do to that shape. And if I have text selected, then it's going to be full of things that I can do to that text. But now it's the box that I've got selected. So over here under properties, I could give it a fill. So if I click here, I see some color swatches. I could fill it with yellow, for example. I could give it a stroke, and what stroke means to Adobe programs is the outline or the frame around whatever you're seeing, the box. So if I click on stroke, right now it's 0 points, which means it's invisible, there's nothing there. And so I'm going to increase the point size. Right now it's yellow because that's the color it just happened to be when I chose it. But if I click on this color swatch, I can now change its color. So I could give it like a pink ring around it. These are not the only colors you have. We'll get into that later. There's, you're going to be able to do any color you need, but just for right now, for quickly, we're just going to use these color swatches that we have. So I've now got a box that's got a color and a stroke, and I can move it around and change it. I can do some text manipulation on the whole box. The whole box is filled with a type style called Minion Pro right now. That's the font that it's using, or typeface that it's using. So I could go down here and I could change it. My type is being filtered. So we're going to talk a lot more about type next week. Next week will be pretty much all about type in InDesign. But right now I can see that I've only got one typeface available to me, and I'm kind of wondering why that is. It's because I've got filters on, and I'm going to click on the filter and say clear all. So now I can see all the fonts that I have. So maybe I want to choose this one instead. Oops, it went back. So another way you can find fonts, if you know what it's called, is you can start typing its name. And I knew that was Tenso, so I'm gonna click on that. Now it's been changed. And now I can see my little overset indicator that says there's too much text for this box. Here's where I can change the size of the type. So I could change it, make it very large. I can do some other things to the type too. We're gonna go over these in detail next week, so I'm not gonna go over it right now, but you can change how the type appears within this box. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this box a little bigger, and maybe I'll delete some of that text. So let's say I just want this part of the text. I'm now in the text tool because I double clicked on this, and I can delete some of the text. Clicking on my selection tool lets me move this box around. So that's a very quick overview of the type tool. That's one thing you can use. I'm going to show you the shapes tools also. So this is the general select tool. This tool below it is called direct selection, and that will be useful when you need to select something in a more fine-grained manner to select a particular part of an object, and we'll learn about that. I'm going to skip down to these tools here. This one is called the rectangle frame tool, and it's got, when you make one, it has this little X placeholder in it. This is sort of a convention for frames that you're going to put an image into. The X sort of reminds you that content is coming for this thing. I'm going to click the delete key and get rid of that. The other shapes that we have are under this tool right down here. It's the rectangle tool, but if you click and hold, you'll see that there's other tools underneath it. You can know that there are extra tools available to you when the tool itself has the little triangle in the bottom right hand corner. So if I click and hold on this one, I get some different tools underneath it. So I'm going to click and hold here and select the ellipse tool. Ellipse is ovals and circles. So if I have that selected and then I click and drag, I'm creating circles. And I'm creating circles. I can look over here in my properties panel and I can see that the stroke is 1 point and the fill is nothing or transparent. So if this has a little red slash across it, it means there's nothing inside there, and it's completely transparent. An interesting thing about transparent shapes that might trip you up at first is that if I go to try and select this shape, if I try to move this shape, I can't grab on in the middle because I'm like grabbing air. I'm grabbing through it. There's nothing filling it. I have to grab the edge and move it by its edge. So I could either fill these with something, or I could make sure that I touch its edge and grab it that way. These handles let you stretch or resize the object. If you hover over the corner of it with the general select tool and you get this sort of double curved arrow, you can click and rotate the object. That can be pretty useful. I'm going to click back on the ellipse tool again so that I have it. And then if you need to make a perfect circle, you hold down the Shift key and click and drag, and it will create a perfect circle instead of an oval. I'm going to fill this circle. So right now all my circles are unfilled. If you've got something selected, that's what will be acted upon when you click on the properties and change it. So I'm going to click on fill, and I'm going to fill this with blue. And then I'm still in the ellipse tool, so if I click on another ellipse, it thinks I want to make an ellipse. I'm going to click cancel. So I need to go back to my selection tool in order to get the rest of these and select them and fill them. You can select multiple things by clicking on one and then holding down Shift and clicking on other things. Another way to select multiple is to just click and drag over all the things you want to select. Now all three of these are selected, and I can fill them all three at once. So I'm going to fill them with paper. So the color white doesn't really exist in InDesign. It's assumed that if you make something white, that it's the color of the paper. So I'm clicking on paper, and they don't look any different, but what I can do now is I can grab in the middle of them and move it. And if I move it on top of another one, you can see that it's opaque, that it doesn't show through. So I'm going to leave that one that color, and then I'm going to select these two and make them magenta. And they're both selected, so they're moving together. I'm going to click in the gray area off to the side. This is called the pasteboard. I'm going to click on that to deselect those things. And you can see that when I deselected, the properties are now the properties of my page instead of the properties of something that's selected here. The last thing I want to show you just for this quick intro is what you can do with some of those strokes and like changing the thickness and the style of the stroke. So I've got this ellipse here and my stroke is 1 point. I can increase that greatly if I wish. If I click on stroke, I can get a panel that shows me more detail and more choices. So I can choose the type of stroke. There are lots of different presets here that I could choose. So I could choose this thick and thin stroke, or I could choose little diamonds, dashed lines, dotted line. There aren't too many choices here, but in InDesign, InDesign is, as we'll find out, is mainly a tool for typesetting things, for creating publications. So the border effects are not used too much, but I wanted to show you that what it's possible to do with those. Likewise, for detailed illustration, I wouldn't use the shapes and the drawing tools in InDesign. I would probably do that in Illustrator or another app and then bring those in as graphics. What InDesign shines at is type and everything to do with type, and type that's arranged in columns and tables of contents and books and titles and pull quotes and all those sort of fancier things that you can do with text on a page is sort of that's what InDesign is built for. But you can do all these things with shapes as well. And all of these shapes can be text containers. If I took my type tool and I clicked in the blue the blue circle, I could fill that with type. I'm going to go under type and fill with placeholder text. And you can see the type has filled my shape. So shapes are containers that can contain type or images, just like the plain text box became a container for my text. So I've got type in here, and if I select all that type and I choose paper, now it's white text within the blue box. And if I decide to change its font to something else, I could do that. I could change its size. Of course, that's going to be way too big to fit in my box. But really, this assignment is just about trying out these tools maybe for the first time and getting used to moving items around on the page and filling things with text and so on and so forth. Another useful thing that I'm going to show you right away, because our next assignment you'll definitely be using this, is the concept of bringing things closer and further away in the stacking order. So this oval here, this long oval, is overlapping this one, but it's not overlapping this one. And so it looks like the pink ones are further back and this blue one is further forward. And if I want this to go over this blue one, I can do it by going to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. This is a command out of, there's hundreds of commands in InDesign, but this one is one that I end up using quite a lot. I'll bring things to the front or send them to the back just to control the order that they're stacked on the page. So if I bring to front, now that's in front of that other thing. And it's in front of, actually, since it's brought to front, it's in front of everything else on my page now. So when I arrange things on the page, that's one way I can control where it goes. So Object Arrange is the thing to remember. Object Arrange. Right now, my only choices are send backward or send to back because it's at the very front. If I send it to back, now it's behind everything, and I can decide where I want my other things to come through. I'm going to change the stroke on this one just for fun. Let's do that. And you might say, oops, nothing happened. Don't forget to look at the weight of the stroke, which is another way of saying the size of it. This is 1 point, and 1 point is a 72nd of an inch, so it's very small. And so as soon as I make this larger, we'll see that those diamonds get larger. So 18 points, I start to see those come out and be visible. This one, maybe I want to give this a white stroke instead, so I'm going to choose paper. The reason it's called paper is because I might not be printing on white paper, but it tells InDesign, just don't put any ink wherever this color is. So if I was printing on like peach colored paper, that color would show through here. So I'm gonna change the width of that. And now you can't really see where it overlaps on the page, but you can see where it overlaps on this square. Okay, so I'm almost done. I'm almost going to let you go. What I want you to do when you turn this in is to take a screenshot of it rather than saving the InDesign file, because InDesign files are rather large, and if I don't have the same fonts as you, I won't be able to see the type work that you've done. For a lot of the work in this class, I'm just going to have you take a screenshot and turn it in. So that's going to become very second nature to you. However you need to take a screenshot, whether you're on a PC or a Mac. On a Mac, it's Command-Shift-4. So I'm hitting that now, Command-Shift-4, and that gives me this little crosshairs, and I'm clicking and dragging to just take the part of the screen that I want, and it grabbed it and it put it into, actually it puts it on my desktop is where it puts it. One other thing I want to show you is while you're working in InDesign, you're seeing these guides and things on the page. You're seeing a margin guide that's showing you that you have 1/2 inch around the edge of the page. Since nothing is selected, I can see that in my properties panel. It says 1/2 inch for all of my margins. The other thing we're seeing is, see this little thin line on this circle down here? That's the actual line, that's the stroke, and then when we add thickness to the stroke, it adds thickness on both sides of where that line is. If you want to see this without any of the guides or anything sort of mucking it up, at least on Mac, you can do Shift-W and you can see it without any stuff. This is how it would print out. So there's no longer that little line around here, and I'm no longer seeing the sort of text helpers I had. Shift-W again will get me back out to seeing it in the InDesign view. Another thing you can do, maybe if you're on PC and that Shift-W doesn't work, is you can go to View, and Screen Mode Preview should do the same thing, except you're still in the interface of InDesign, but you're not seeing any of those guides. You're seeing it as it would print. But then remember to go back to Screen Mode Normal so that you can have those tools available to you. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. One more thing I want to mention is that when you're exploring tools, go ahead and explore some of these other ones, see if you can get them to work, see what they do. I don't recommend playing with the pen tool in InDesign. It will be rather frustrating. It's much better to do that kind of thing in Illustrator, but you can try it out if you like. When we have little palettes that come out, like when we were messing with the stroke, and now I'm in the pen tool, so I'm gonna click back on my regular select tool. When we were messing with the stroke and we clicked here, we got a little panel that was all about the stroke. All the panels in InDesign, if you forget how to get to them, you can click on the window menu right here, and they're all under here somewhere. So if I wasn't in the right panel on the right and I didn't know where to get my stroke menu, I could go under window and I would find it and click stroke, and I get the tab back for controlling my stroke. Same with just about everything else. I could go and be like, where's my character panel? We're going to look at this a lot more next week. But you can open up a panel that is all about type and the characters that you're using. So character means, in this case, it means just a single letter, like A is a character, B is a character. If I use the type tool and select, now I can see that that character panel is active and it's showing me my font. And it's a lot of the same things that are in properties. Properties tries to sort of pull in everything that you might most commonly use, but sometimes you can get extra options by actually opening up the panel for whatever tool you're using. So I've got my character. I can change it to maybe 30 points. I can change the line height, and we're going to do a lot more with all of these tools. But I can do a lot of things from this panel here. And if I get all cluttered with panels and I don't want to go around closing them all, I can go to Essentials and reset the workspace. So Reset Essentials will put everything back where it's supposed to go and get rid of the clutter for you. So I think that's about enough for now. Just put some stuff on a page. It doesn't matter what it is. Try some stuff. Just sort of get used to the tools, and then take that screenshot and put it into your the assignment folder. So again, screenshot, Command-Shift-4 on the Mac, window and print screen, I believe, on a PC will do that for you. And then the screenshot that comes out, that's what I want you to turn into D2L. So if we jump back to D2L and the assignment, this is where I'm going to put that file. So since I'm on a Mac and I know it's on my desktop, I'm going to click on Finder, and I'm going to click on Desktop, and I'll show you a neat trick. The desktop can be viewed in different views. So if you click on this, it's the icon view. If you click on this, it's a list view. This is a column view. I really like this view because you can see what's inside which folders and the path. But if I'm looking for a file that I just saved, and I know I just saved it, I like the list view because I can click on Date Modified, and that will put the most recent file at the top. Now I'm inside a different folder. I need to click on my desktop again. Okay, so Desktop, List View, and then Date Modified. Screenshot, that's my most recent file. So it's showing me my recent files, like the files I opened just today, the files I opened yesterday, the files I opened the day before that. Super useful. So there's my screenshot. You could rename it if you wish. To rename it on the Mac, you can hit Control, click, and this is the contextual menu, and then you click Rename, and it will highlight it so that you can rename it. And I'm just going to call it Abstract. And on the Mac, these are by default a PNG file. I didn't look at that before I clicked rename, but I know it's a PNG file, and that's an image format, and we'll talk a lot more about that as well. So there's an abstract PNG. I click OK. It's still the most recent file. I'm going to drop it here to turn it in, and then I'm going to click Submit. And now that is submitted successfully, and it's sent me a confirmation email. That's a preference you can turn on or off, whether it sends you that submission receipt, but that's what it's doing for me. I've turned in that submission. So that's it for the abstract composition in InDesign. Remember, it really doesn't matter what it looks like, but I just want you to start playing around with the tools.